Imagine you are a beautifully crafted, hand-painted wooden boat. Like you have these rich, intricate details carved right into your hull.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You're built with a very specific purpose, right? To last a lifetime of tactile, imaginative play. You're ready for, I don't know, epic adventures in the sandbox, daring rescues in the bathtub.
Or sailing across the deep pile carpet in the living room.
Exactly. But today, you are just sitting at the bottom of a toy box, utterly ignored.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, and it's because across the room is this glowing sheet of glass emitting a continuous laser light show. It's got surround sound, and it's delivering this constant engineered drip of digital dopamine.
Wow. Yeah, the tablet.
Right, and the child you belong to isn't even looking up. So how does a simple static physical object, no matter how lovingly crafted it is, how does it compete with the infinite, flashing, frictionless universe inside an iPad?
I mean, it is an incredibly bleak scenario when you frame it from the perspective of the object left behind. And, well, it strikes at the absolute core of the anxiety driving the narrative we're examining today.
It really does. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a massive stack of critical reviews, production notes, and early audience reactions to answer the question on literally every moviegoer's mind regarding Toy Story 5.
And it's a big question.
It is. Our mission here is to sift through this mountain of analysis to figure out if this film actually justifies its own existence. Because we have to acknowledge the, very heavy dose of skepticism you might be feeling right now.
Right, totally understandable skepticism.
Like, did we really need a fifth installment in a franchise that arguably delivered one of the most perfect, emotionally devastating, tie-it-all-up with a bow endings in cinematic history?
Yeah.
And that was 2 movies ago.
Yeah, I mean, the ending of the third film is routinely cited by critics as a masterclass in concluding a trilogy.
Yep.
So venturing back into that universe for a 5th time naturally raises eyebrows across the critical landscape. It demands a formidable justification. A studio cannot just rely on residual goodwill, They have to present a compelling reason to reopen the toy box.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading through this stack of critical consensus, the verdict is genuinely surprising.
It really is.
Despite those initial highly valid doubts about its necessity, the reviews overwhelmingly point to a film that delivers a shockingly fresh, fiercely intelligent, and deeply heartfelt story.
Yeah, they didn't just phone it in.
No, they really didn't. They didn't just do some nostalgic cash grab. They engineered a narrative that addresses the single biggest elephant in the room regarding modern childhood.
Exactly. And to understand why the film is landing so well with critics, we really have to look at the foundational premise outlined in the production notes.
Right, the director's big question.
Yeah. The director posed one central defining question to the writing team, and it was, what if your favorite toys had to compete with technology for a child's attention?
Oh, wow.
Right, that is the thematic engine driving every single scene.
It is such a brilliant, necessary pivot. I mean, the writers realized they couldn't just invent another rescue mission, right?
Or a lost and found adventure, yeah, we've seen that.
So they anchored the film aggressively in the present day. We are looking at a story that explores the reality of being a kid right now. And they do it in a way the previous films, which were, largely steeped in this kind of timeless analog nostalgia, they simply couldn't do.
Right, it's totally different.
It is the ultimate showdown. It's traditional physical toys battling modern, omnipresent digital devices to capture a child's imagination.
It's the screen versus the toy box. And this conflict shifts the entire psychological landscape of the franchise.
How so?
Well, if you look at the thematic through line of the previous films, the classic existential dread of this universe has always been the fear of being outgrown.
Right. Andy going to college.
Exactly. Time was the ultimate antagonist. Andy going to college was a tragedy for the toys, sure, but it was presented as a natural, inevitable part of the human life cycle.
It's the bittersweet reality of growing up.
Right. But the introduction of the tablet completely shatters that natural cycle. The reviews highlight how the existential dread morphs from the fear of being outgrown to the much more modern, terrifying fear of being rendered totally obsolete.
Obsolete, wow. The psychological difference there is staggering.
It changes the stakes entirely.
Yeah.
The critics point out that if a child naturally outgrows you because they're aging into new interests, well, there's a mechanism for survival.
That could be donated.
Exactly. You can be passed down to a younger sibling or to a kid like Bonnie. There's a lineage of play.
Right. There is hope for a second act.
Yeah. But if you are rendered obsolete because the very concept of playing with a physical toy has been entirely replaced by staring at a screen, that is an entirely different level of threat.
It's terrifying.
The toys aren't fighting the passage of time anymore. They are fighting a sudden, aggressive paradigm shift in human behavior.
Yeah, because when a kid plays with a wooden boat, they have to supply the imagination. They make the engine noises, they invent the storm, they voice the captain. It is an active partnership between the child and the toy.
And a screen is the exact opposite.
Yes, it's largely passive consumption. The algorithm dictates the story, the device provides the sound effects, and the child just receives it.
And the production notes actually mention the writers consulting with child psychologists for this.
Wait, really?
Yeah, to understand how this shift from active creation to passive consumption impacts a child's development. And they baked that anxiety directly into the toys' perspectives.
That is incredible.
The reviews note how effectively the film visualizes that passive consumption, too. The toys are basically watching the children become almost catatonic.
Oh, man.
It's no longer about a kid leaving the room and turning off the lights. It's about the kid being in the room but being entirely mentally absent, lost in a digital void.
Which brings up something in these notes that genuinely shocked me.
Oh, about the protagonist.
Yeah. If you are going to wage a narrative war against the sleek, modern piece of digital technology, you would assume Buzz Lightyear would be leading the charge.
Right, he's the ultimate laser-toting tech toy of the group.
Exactly. But he isn't. The reviews reveal that Jessie takes on a massively expanded, elevated role as the main protagonist of this film.
It's a huge shift.
And Woody and Buzz, the absolute pillars of the franchise, are sidelined into supporting roles. From a business and branding perspective, benching the cowboy and the spaceman sounds like a disastrous risk.
Oh, totally.
Doesn't passing the baton to Jessie risk completely alienating the longtime fans who are buying a ticket specifically to see that iconic duo?
It is a massive structural risk, and the production notes show the studio debated it endlessly. But the critical consensus doesn't just accept this. Shift reviewers actively highlight Jessie's elevated role as the single smartest creative choice in the film.
Really? I would have thought critics would accuse them of sidelining the core emotional anchors.
Yeah.
Why is Jessie the key to making this specific plot work?
It comes down to her specific psychological profile. Think about Jessie's character history.
Okay.
Her defining trauma is abandonment. She spent years trapped in a dark box, completely cut off from the world and from the love of a child.
Right.
She intimately understands sensory deprivation and isolation. So when you introduce a tablet into a child's life, what does it do?
It isolates them.
Exactly. It creates a digital isolation box around the kid. The child is physically present but psychologically walled off.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that parallel.
Woody operates on a paradigm of stoic loyalty and duty, right?
Right.
And Buzz operates on action and procedure.
Yeah.
Neither of them possess the specific emotional vocabulary to understand the trauma of isolation the way Jessie does.
That is a fascinating connection. So Jessie recognizes the screen, not just as a new toy, but as a mechanism of isolation.
Precisely.
She sees the child retreating into a box, much like she was forced into one.
Exactly. Placing her at the forefront of a battle against the isolating nature of digital technology makes perfect thematic sense. She's fighting to pull the child out of the dark and back into the physical world.
I love that.
And the reviews note that this shift allows the film to explore entirely new emotional terrain without feeling like a repetition of Woody's previous arcs. Plus, critics are practically unanimous in their praise for Joan Cusack's returning vocal performance.
Oh, I mean, Joan Cusack has always given Jessie such a distinct, crackling, almost frantic energy.
Yeah, she really has.
It makes total sense that if you give her the emotional heavy lifting, she's going to run with it.
And the reviews specifically highlight how Cusack modulates that frantic energy in this film.
Yeah.
It isn't just comedic panic anymore, it's a desperate, fiercely protective drive.
Right.
She anchors the entire emotional weight of the narrative. And while Woody and Buzz are in supporting roles, the reviews make it clear they are vital supporting roles.
So they aren't just, like, forgotten in the background.
Not at all. The writers didn't diminish them, they simply repositioned them as the veteran ensemble supporting Jessie's leadership, which in itself is a beautiful evolution of their friendship.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more, because here's where it gets really interesting. Having a brilliant thematic script about Jessie fighting an iPad is one thing.
Right.
But actually executing that on screen, animating that technological gap so it feels visually terrifying without making the tablet look like, you know, a cartoon villain with evil red eyes, is a massive challenge.
Oh, definitely.
Look at the critical reception of the visual execution here. We all expect Pixar to deliver stunning animation. It's practically a given. But the production notes detail how the animation team had to completely rethink their approach to texture and lighting to make this specific conflict visible for the audience.
Yeah, the visual contrast had to serve as the thematic contrast. The animators couldn't just make the digital world look bad and the toys look good.
Right, that would be too simple.
They had to emphasize the tactile reality of the physical toys. The reviews praise the hyper-realistic rendering of the toys' materials. You can literally see the microscopic fraying of the yarn in Jessie's hair.
Wow.
You see the scuffs and worn-down paint on Woody's boots, the microscopic scratches in the plastic of Buzz's helmet from years of play.
They highlight the imperfections. The physical toys bear the physical marks of being loved.
Yes, and they contrast that heavily textured, warm, imperfect physical reality with the cold, frictionless, utterly sterile surface of the digital devices.
Which are perfectly smooth glass.
Exactly. They don't wear down from love, they just get covered in greasy fingerprints. And the lighting design follows suit perfectly.
How so?
Well, the toys are bathed in the warm, incandescent glow of a bedroom lamp, while the screens cast this harsh, unnatural, isolating blue light onto the children's faces.
You can almost feel the temperature drop in the room when the screen turns on. The reviews note that you actually feel the texture of the toys to understand what tactile experience is being lost to that smooth glass. And I think a huge part of anchoring that warmth, despite the cold, tech-centric plot, is the nostalgia factor.
Oh, absolutely.
Hearing Tom Hanks and Tim Allen return is like an auditory grounding mechanism. Even if the plot is tackling the anxieties of 2026, those voices instantly transport you back to the emotional safety of the earlier films.
That auditory familiarity is a deliberate counterweight to the anxiety of the plot. But, the filmmakers knew they couldn't rely solely on the old guard to carry the narrative weight.
Right, you need new blood.
Exactly. The sources note the introduction of several new characters who inject a necessary, chaotic, fresh energy into the story. They expand the toy box with characters that represent the weird, modern detritus of a contemporary kid's room.
And navigating that balance between the old familiar guard and the chaotic new elements is what allows the humor to function so well.
It operates on two levels.
Exactly. The reviews repeatedly point out that the humor operates flawlessly on two distinct levels, which is the hallmark of that classic Pixar formula. You have the vibrant physical comedy, the slapstick, and the colorful new characters for the younger audience, the kids who might literally be holding an iPad in the theater while watching the movie.
Right, they get the physical gags.
And layered beneath that is a much sharper, more observational, almost satirical humor designed specifically for the adults in the room.
The parents.
Yes, the parents who are the ones actually losing sleep over screen time limits and algorithmic dopamine loops. The script manages to validate the parents' anxieties without talking down to the children.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of all these elements. We've explored the thematic pivot to technology, the elevation of Jessie, the incredible textural animation, and the dual-layer humor.
So what is the final, definitive, critical verdict on this movie?
That's the big question.
Because while the consensus is highly positive, the stack of reviews in front of us reveals a distinct critical divide. It is really important to note that not everyone agrees this fifth movie was entirely justified.
That's true. There is a vocal segment of reviewers who argue that despite the shiny, new, tech-focused plot and the shift in protagonist, the film still ultimately relies on revisiting very familiar emotional territory.
Right. The well of nostalgia is incredibly deep for this franchise, but it's not bottomless.
Exactly. Some critics clearly felt the structural beats of the narrative, the rescue mission, the fear of abandonment, the